Welcome everyone to Coaching in Session. My name is Michael Reardon and I'll be your mindset coach today. And today we're going to be having a special guest, Jeff Buehner, who's going to be talking about his idea of mindset. And it might be atypical to mindset because typically mindset, especially in our modern day, is very politically correct. I will say that. I try to be politically correct to make my first step into your mind clean. I don't want to say something where it automatically puts you off on edge. Oh, well, he said that. Sometimes I say things that can hurt your feelings. Sometimes I can say things that are far from your idea of the truth. But sometimes the truths that we give ourselves are just false realities. Because if you tell yourself a lie long enough, it becomes a truth. And we talk about the unconscious mind, the subconscious mind. That is going to be helping us figure out, well, what is really going on? Because we know about our conscious mind, right? Our conscious mind is like, all right, I'm going to go to the movies, and I go to the movies. Oh, I would like this car. I would do this. I would do that. But the subconscious mind is telling us our true feelings. What do we really want? How do we want to do it? I think Jeff has a unique approach to this, where it's not just talking about, all right, our subconscious mind is daydreaming. Our subconscious mind is our inlaid beliefs, our identity. I mean, it goes a little bit deeper. I want to get into that interview with Jeff. The flow of this episode is very interesting, where we start and we're moving. And it's always interesting and it's always fun to have guests on because you don't know how they're going to be. There's a lot that happens in our life and we have to figure out, well, what are the things we're going to pay attention to? What are the things we're going to worry about? So in a sense, we have to figure out what mindset is, what we want, what we have to do. And I think this episode with Jeff Buehner is going to be a great starting point or a great end point for any person to start to make changes. So let's get into that interview with Jeff and myself. Welcome, Jeff Buehner, to Coaching in Session. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, Michael. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being on the show and for being patient with me. I know my schedule can be a little bit hectic, but today I have you on as a mindset coach, and you're going to be telling us a different perspective to mindset that we haven't heard yet here on the podcast. So in your own words, can you introduce yourself to the world and how you help?
Yeah, I had a blessing come into my life 28 years ago, and it changed everything about my situation, the way I see the world, really opened me up. And so all I have to share is that. I don't go beyond that. And these are the writings of Sultan Musa of Mali and what I learned from him and how he helped me. And that's what I teach other people to learn and apply.
Who was the Sultan guy? Did he have like a specific title? What did he accomplish? I mean, like, tell us a little bit more about him and then his mindset.
Well, he was born very poor. His father died when he was just a little boy, and he lived in West Africa in the 1300s. So this condemned him to unbelievable poverty. His mother couldn't help him much. He had to go out and steal food from farmers and merchants just to stay alive. And then he has a near-death experience. An older thief tries to murder him, and he survives this. But he has this, what we call a near-death experience. And he meets a man made of light and love who teaches him how the world works, how people work, how creation works. And this changes everything for him. It's the greatest rags to riches story ever told.
So he went from rags to riches. What was that journey though? So he was dirt poor and then all of a sudden he's just wealthy all of a sudden?
No. He learned something in this near-death experience called the language of the gods. But as I read his second parchment and learned about this language of the gods, number one, I instantly knew it was true. I knew that's the way it is. But it goes against our training from the time we're little kids. I was so excited when I read this because I knew it was going to change my life, but I didn't dare even mess with it because I was so afraid, Michael, that if I did it and it didn't work, I'd be devastated. It was like, here's the answer, but what if it's not the answer and I need the answer so badly? It took me a little while just to get up the courage to mess with it a little bit. And I only did it on things that didn't matter that much. But as I did it, weird coincidences started popping up.
You said something interesting there. You said it goes against what we learned as children. I want you to go a little bit deeper into that because if you know anything about me, my background, the podcast, I am well aware of the holes in our education system, from the curriculum to teachers to the students to the parents. There's so many factors that develop poor children. So we have these children who are growing up and then now they're adults and they're not equipped to handle the world, whether it be finance, relationships, or career. Doesn't matter. They can't handle it. So how did they do? They scrape by. They barely get by, or they learn the hard way, trial and error. Well, there's a different way that we can help our youth, help these children. It does require mindset. It does require awareness. It does require an awakening of society to see this as a problem. Kind of going into what we teach our children versus how we should be teaching our children in accordance to the language of God's.
Well, it's interesting you bring this up because you can read about Sultan Musa of Mali. He's in history books. And one of the things he did was started construction on a new school every Friday. And in these schools, he instructed teachers to instruct students, young and old, how to use their God-given gifts to succeed. And by doing this, he lifted the entire Mali kingdom out of poverty, not just himself. This was the poorest kingdom. He expanded it. He lifted it out of poverty. And there was a historian who went through, describes it, Al-Shabaab. He says the women, the children, everyone were so happy and they loved each other and helped build each other. But it all stemmed from this Sultan Musa of Mali, teaching what he learned. And the language of the gods is a big part of it. But I wanted to go back to something you said about teaching children and, how we were trained as kids to literally do it wrong. So I want to follow up on that because one of the things that you're taught as a child, you're told who you are. I mean, think about going to school. It begins even before that. Your parents, all of your cousins, your friends, they tell you who you are and you believe it. I mean, over time, you just kind of you go to school and they have you recite certain things. And if you say something wrong, they quickly tell you, no, that's not what we are here. That's not who you are. That's not who we are. Well, who says? They need you to fit into their program. The first thing they did was taught you to quit using your superpower. As a child, you would get into a make-believe world like crazy and just, get lost in this world. But they needed you to focus on your homework. They needed you to do your chores. They needed you to go to bed. You got scolded and even punished sometimes until you quit pretending so much. They needed you to come out of your dream world to fit into their real world. First thing that little Musa learned when he had his near-death experience is that he has two bodies. He has a physical body, which is dead back in the cave where he was locked in by this older thief. And after 4 days of no water, he perished. But what that meant was his spirit body popped out of his physical body. And he realized that this spirit body is the one with the power, with the life. The physical body with no spirit body in it is worthless. It's just a big old lump of tissue. The spirit body goes on, moves on. It's immortal. It is literally a child of God. That's the first thing he learned. The second thing he learned is that he was just playing a role on earth, the role of a poor little thief. And that's all any of us are doing. You're playing a role. I'm playing the role of Jeff. We're all just playing a role, and we think our role is who we are, but it's not true. We could play any different roles. If we were dropped into a different situation in a different part of the country or a different time period, we would instantly accept our surroundings, start doing our best, and we would happily accept a brand new role. So just like you have two bodies, a spirit body and a physical body, you have two minds working simultaneously. You have your conscious mind. That's, you think of as you. You also have what Musa called the veiled mind. Now, we know about this. We call it the subconscious mind. But what he learned about the subconscious mind is that it's absolutely in charge. It is steering all of our lives exactly where it thinks we're supposed to go. But who tells it where we're supposed to go? Who tells it whether we're supposed to be poor or wealthy, happy, miserable? That it believes one thing about you and absolutely will make it happen. So this is what I want to jump into, because the language of the gods comes into you are the one who is telling your subconscious mind what to believe about you. But it doesn't care about your words. It doesn't care about your thoughts. It speaks one language and it obeys this language. So when you speak to it in this language, it first of all believes it, believes what you say, and then makes your life congruent with what it believes. So the language of the gods, Musa learned, is feelings. So your subconscious mind is always listening to and believing your feelings, not your words, not your thoughts, how you're feeling. So as a child, you had experiences that were accompanied by really strong emotion, and that set subconscious beliefs. And then whatever your subconscious mind believes about you, it will make true in your physical world. Now, as you go through life, your subconscious beliefs change because you have new experiences, new emotions attached to experiences. But you come out of childhood programmed. I mean, you are a little robot. You've been programmed. And that program will run and your life will stay congruent with that program. That process is still going on. You're still having experiences that make you feel a certain way. Your subconscious mind believes your feelings. It never doubts them. And then it keeps your life congruent with them, your predominant feelings. But you can take control of that communication. You can change the way you feel regardless of what's going on in your physical world. In fact, in defiance of what's going on, and your subconscious mind will believe your new feelings and change your life to keep it aligned with these new predominant feelings that you're generating on purpose with maturity and intent. And that's where the magic happens.
One of the things we said early on, and this kind of goes back into the beginning of when you took over, was when we are teaching our children how to basically conform, right? How to be a part of society. And one of the things you said is to not pay attention to their gift in a way, right? You said, okay, this is what you're supposed to do. You're not worrying about your gift. You're worrying about the coalition of society, of the mass of people, right? This is the norm. This is what is expected. This is what you do. Versus, oh, you're unique. You're an individual. You have your own gift. There's something that you can do that no one else can do. Let's focus on that, right? We don't teach that in schools. That is muffled. That imagination is muffled. And it just goes into the stages of development. So if you're familiar with the stages of development in teaching, is that you are going to be learning primarily when you're younger from your environment and your behaviors. So of course, yes, we are going to be robots because we're looking at our parents, we're looking at our peers, we're looking at our teachers. From age 0 to 7, we are learning primarily from our environment and the behaviors around us. By that time, we start to add other things, right? And that's going to be the next 2. We start to add values and beliefs. So if you're religious, similar to how you're like, oh, if you're righteous, right? Now we're adding that and kind of trying to get up to the identity. We're not there yet. So we're adding beliefs and we're adding values, right? Value that many people follow is the golden rule, right? Treat others as how you would like to be treated, right? We learned that. So we learned the value system. Typically, if you have a father, be honest, handle your business, do what you're going to say to do, open the door for women. I mean, we learn values, right? So those are the value system. Eventually, we create an identity for ourselves. And the subconscious mind is usually fully developed by 10 or 11. So now we have our subconscious mind that knows our identity, that knows our values and beliefs. but we don't necessarily look at our behaviors as something bad. It's just normal. So our behaviors might be negative, right? Like, oh, I'm supposed to a 12 pack every Friday because my dad did it. Well, that behavior is negative, right? Like we know that, but it's normal for them because that was the behavior they saw. They also have the perception to environment. They can see a bad environment and say, well, this is life. They can see a good environment and not be grateful for having it because that's their perception, or hate having it. So there's different avenues the mind can go down. And then it kind of goes into the idea of our feelings.
So the communication between your conscious and subconscious mind is feelings. So you speak to your subconscious mind in the language of feelings, and it believes them, keeps your life congruent, but then it speaks back to you in feelings as well. And this is how it really keeps your life congruent, because you act on your feelings. So it's sending you your feelings, you act on your feelings. Your everything you do, everything you experience, which it's controlling to in this same way, makes you feel a certain way, and it's all in alignment with your subconscious beliefs. So it keeps you in this loop. You wake up every morning, you're thinking about your reality, your life, that makes you feel a certain way. Your subconscious mind hears those feelings, believes them, and then makes them true in your physical world. You're caught in what I call the spell you're living under. Now you think it's just you. And all these things you do, like drinking a six-pack on a Friday night because dad did. The reason you do that is because it makes you feel good. You love your dad. You feel like your dad is part of your identity. You want to be like him, and drinking a six-pack aligns you with that identity. But let's say you decide, hey, I can love my dad without drinking a six-pack. And by the way, I can't teach this. It's a waste of time to teach this to kids or even young adults. It's useful to teach it to adults who have gone through some hardship, who have kind of experienced the world, some good, some bad, and then they're ready at some point to take control of their life. And they realize at that point that all of the hardship, all of the frustration, all of the quote unquote bad things that have happened to you, it's a necessary foundation for you to even appreciate the ability that I share with people, the ability to literally seize control of your life. Without that hardship, without those embarrassments and even the pain, you can't really appreciate this. People don't think of it. They don't cling to it. They don't grab it. But let's go back to the spell you're under. How do you break it? I mean, let's say it's worse than drinking a six-pack on a Friday night. You're addicted to drugs. That's your identity. Or you're a thief, or your identity is that you can't conform to society because you don't even want to. You're outside of society. You don't want to be part of that. You hate that. You've been taught to hate that. And even if conceptually you can think, well, God, it'd be better if I was on the right side of the law. It would be better if I was wealthy. It would be better if I had ownership of some things. But your identity is that that's wrong, but it's a deep subconscious belief. So whatever I think consciously, that's not changing anything. Your subconscious mind doesn't even pay attention to that. It knows what you're thinking. It's aware of all of your thoughts, but your thoughts don't program it. It doesn't obey them. It doesn't even listen to them in that context. So how do you change the way you feel? How do you break this spell you're living under? Well, you have to throw a monkey wrench into the gears. You've got to reverse it, or you're just going to stay in that loop forever until you reverse the subconscious beliefs that the whole loop is predicated on. Well, if feelings is how you do that, you change your feelings and start flooding your subconscious mind with feelings that match the life you want. How do you do that if your whole reality is making you feel differently? All right, here's how you do it. It goes back to your superpower. Your God-given superpower is your ability to imagine and pretend. It's how you learned everything. Your ability to program your subconscious mind has never changed. You're right in terms of your subconscious mind is developed at a certain age, but the process of it generating and creating subconscious beliefs has not changed one bit. If you have an experience accompanied by really strong human emotion, you can create a subconscious belief. And you can do this on purpose consciously with daydreams. Let's say you get lost, Michael, in a beautiful daydream. Anything you want, it's your imagination. You can be with anyone you want to be with. You can be doing anything you want to do. You can have as much money as you want to have. You can have your dream car, your dream house, and you can get lost in this daydream, just like you did as a little kid. You get lost in a make-believe world. And as you do that, you feel differently than when you're not doing that, when you're just focused on what's going on in reality and somebody dented your car door, and that makes you feel a different way. When you're lost in a daydream, you feel great. You're aligned with what you want, but you know it's not real, right? It's just a daydream. But what about the feelings it generates? Are those real? Yeah, you better believe it. And your subconscious mind is listening and it believes your feelings. It doesn't differentiate between a feeling that's created by quote unquote real life or feelings you generate on your own in your imagination. And let me bring this a little closer to home because you're doing this anyway all the time. You call an experience that happens reality. Well, that's what really happened, but not really, because you're interpreting what happened. You're putting value on what happened. You're deciding how to feel about what happened. Like a kid, let's say there's a 13-year-old boy walking down the mall and three cute little girls walk by and they look at him and they giggle. And then they walk by, they're gone. Can't ask him any questions. He just now has to decide how he's going to interpret what just happened. Did they look at him and giggle and nudge each other and point because he's cute? Or are they laughing at him? Do they think he's a gomer? Well, how do you interpret? What determines how you interpret what just happened? Your subconscious beliefs. If you believe you're a gomer, you're going to believe that they're laughing at you because you're a gomer. If, on the other hand, you have subconscious beliefs of, oh, I'm doing all right, I'm okay, I'm developing into something cool, you're going to interpret that as those girls like me and they're pointing me out to their friends. But as an adult, you get to decide everything. You get to decide, you get to re-identify or reinvent your role. And this is what Sultan Musa of Mali did. He just reinvented his role. He decided what he was going to be and then fed that, flooded his subconscious mind with those feelings using daydreams, imagination, but understanding what he was doing. He understood that as he's doing that and creating feelings on purpose that match what he wants out of life, that his subconscious mind was hearing them, believing them, and then orchestrating things, circumstances and situations that matched those feelings. So this is what I teach people. And it's not easy because, like I said, it goes against everything you were trained to do. You were trained to focus on reality. Michael, get your head out of the clouds. Kid, quit daydreaming. You're lost in a dream world, son. You got to focus on reality. You got to get to work. You got to do your homework. You got to be at your job on time. And you did. You learned to focus on all of that. And as you did, you immersed yourself in the feelings of the real world. And you got trapped in the spell you're living under. But you can take charge of that. As an adult, you can decide, hey, a lot of things about my real world are wonderful, but some things aren't. And I want to change them. How do I do that? By seizing control of the communication that's taking place with your subconscious mind. Because this isn't just identify what you want and then go to work to get it. This is identify what you really want and then imagine that the most powerful thing you can do is to pretend that things are right now exactly the way you'd like them to be. Why? Because as you pretend that you have the amount of money you want to have, that you have the car you'd like to have, the relationship you'd like to have, the physical health you'd like to experience. As you pretend, you'll experience a portion of the exact same feelings that you would experience if you actually were in that perfect shape with the perfect wife, with the perfect situation, the perfect job, the perfect amount of money. And your subconscious mind hears your feelings. And if it hears them enough, it believes them. And as soon as it believes them, that's when the magic kicks in, because it goes and orchestrates things. It starts telling you, hey, don't just walk by that house. Go knock on the door. You've seen those people before. Go introduce yourself. Well, it's why? Why would you do that? But you do, and you find out that maybe you went to school with that guy years and years ago, and he has half of a business and you have the other half. And the next thing you know, the two of you are making $400,000 a month doing something you love with a new partner that you enjoy, and a new world opens up. But it's your subconscious mind that's constantly feeding you impulses that you act on. But those impulses may have been developed when you were a kid. They may have been developed by others telling you who you are. But now as an adult, you get to sit down and identify exactly what you want, and then tell your subconscious mind what to believe.
That I mentality, right? I have to do this. I need to do this. I need to be rich. I need to be happy. We give ourselves that I. Where does that come from?
Well, it's that consciousness that, we own our spirit bodies. We own our consciousness, our life. We've been given life as a gift, and it's ours. And then we want it to be a certain way. We can appreciate the gift and hope that it's a certain type of existence, a certain type of experience. We'd like to avoid some real bad stuff and have a lot of good stuff. And by the way, you can do that. You have to have some bad, but you learn from good experience and you learn from bad experience. But as you get older, there is a point at which you're absolutely 100% free to choose your life, to choose your existence. Now, that doesn't mean that bad, quote unquote, bad things can't happen. I live in the same world as everyone else. I can get a dent in my car door. I simply never allow anything that happens in the physical realm to molest my dream world, the way I view the world. If someone dents in my Land Rover door, I instantly go to, it's just a car. I'll get another one. I'll fix it. I live in a dream world, but that spirit world, if you will, controls your physical world over time exactly the same way your spirit body is what controls your physical body. It's not the other way around. The spirit world, your spirit body is absolutely in control. And the good news is you can seize control of that world. Like right now, you could learn to speak the language of the gods and be speaking it by tonight and all day tomorrow and all week in a way that builds this beautiful dream world. And you will see, if you do that, you will see that dream world start to affect your physical realm. It doesn't happen instantly, thank goodness, because you couldn't enjoy your imagination if every time you thought of your dream car, it appeared instantly. You'd have so many dream cars in your driveway, you wouldn't be able to get to your house or houses. So there's this beautiful lag time. But when you understand that it is affecting your world over time, you don't care. I mean, you're already experiencing those beautiful feelings now, knowing that it's affecting your physical world. But I mean, I kind of cared when I was pretty poor and in debt. I wanted things to happen in the physical realm quickly. And it took about a year, 8 months to 10 months, really, for my financial situation to turn around. But I was experiencing really happy, exciting financial feelings in my imagination, my dream world. And as you learn to do this, it just gives you tons of hope. Life turns into like every day is Christmas morning. What are you going to do today to generate something, whether that's a week, 2 weeks, 2 years? You're doing it now, knowing that you're creating your world.
When we start to dive down this path of, okay, I'm going to learn this language, there's going to be some people who are going to go in with a half heart, and they're going to say, okay, I'm going to try it because I'm on my last leg, right? They're going to just do it because they want the good stuff, right? It's kind of like the mentality of everyone wants the riches and the fame, but they don't want to do the work. And so they will happenstance like, okay, I'm going to practice this language and I'm going to do it for a week or a month or whatever it is. But if you don't look at your subconscious mind and your subconscious mind doesn't believe it, then guess what? It's not going to work. So yeah, you can follow this language. You can follow these steps. You can listen to this podcast 100 times. But if your subconscious mind doesn't change, then your life is going to have a difficult time changing also. And what we do as mindset coaches is we help people with the quality of their thoughts. How are you thinking about something? How do you feel about yourself? And all that is congruent to your future, to your success, to your wealth, getting that scarcity, those limiting beliefs out of your mind. There is many factors that you have to pay attention to in order to begin to change your life. And I know I kind of gave you the reins, Jeff, and I want to give you a little bit more right now by sharing any last words with the audience. And then, of course, how people can find you.
Okay, excellent. I want to take, you said people might jump into this half-heartedly. Well, they do, but let's take the example of a child who got a bad education. They maybe lived in a bad neighborhood, grew up in that steeped in that whole concept of, well, I can't do it. The six-pack on a Friday night is just the way it is. It's how it was with dad, my uncles, grandpa, or worse, maybe they're into other stuff that's more destructive than a six-pack. All right, let's take that child, but now he or she is an adult and they've experienced all of that hardship to the point where they're like, this life is just not working for me. I'm not excelling. I'm not having fun like those people, and I'm not doing great stuff or own my own business or have a great relationship like all these people I see around me. I can't get there. Okay, that person, when you teach them this, they've had so much pain from their past that it's rare that anyone does this half-heartedly. Once they see it, and I can always tell when they get it because their eyes pop open a little, their mouth kind of pops open, and they usually say something like, holy crap, I see it. I see how I've been doing what I've been doing. I've put myself right where I am, and all the factors that helped with that. And now I see how I can put myself where I want to be. And there's very few half-hearted people when they've gone through trouble. And that's why I don't try to teach it to kids, because they haven't had enough trouble yet. This is just another thing that some adult's saying. But you teach it to somebody who's 40 years old, who's lived in poverty, who's lived in ill health, who's had one or two marriages go bad. Boy, they've got some pain. And when you show them this, they're like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? It almost pisses you off a little bit. It can upset you because you think, well, had I known this 20 years ago, I could have avoided all of that crap. But the problem is you probably wouldn't have, because you needed the pain to appreciate it. So most people, when they hear this and get it, they're really ready for it, and they've had enough frustration, enough pain that they have that foundation to use it, and they want to use it. It's the most fun way to live. It's just crazy fun. I wrote the book, The Sultan's Seven Secrets, for the same reason I think Musa wrote all of his stuff. It's because it was such a blessing to me that I knew I had to share it. I couldn't just go off into the sunset and retire on my farm over in Belize, having shared it with maybe a few hundred people. I knew I had to get it out there. And so I wrote the book. I give the book away basically for free. I think there's a $2 site maintenance fee. It's $2. You can get the book. You could download it right now, and you can be speaking the language of the gods within a couple hours and understand. And here's the important part. You'll have a full understanding of why and how what you're doing is going to change your life. Because lots of people, read The Secret, and there's truth in that. They're about half the truth. But there's the second half, she didn't explain how feeling good and focusing on what you want is going to change anything. So we had manifestors who would lie on the couch with their eyes shut, trying to think of the things they want and force the physical world to change. Well, it doesn't work that way. So then they're frustrated and, they say, oh, it didn't work for me. But when you understand the second half of the equation and you know what you're doing and how it's going to change things, and then you start hunting for little coincidences that start popping up, things that weren't happening last week or a month ago, you get this incredible sense of confidence that you can control your life and you know how. So if anyone wants the book, go to sultans7secrets.com. That's Sultans with an S at the beginning and the end, secrets, S at the beginning and an S at the end.com. And you can download the book for a fraction of the value. It's a $20 value. You can have it for $2 and you can be speaking the language of the gods tomorrow.
Perfect. I will put that link in the description box below. I'll also toss in some of your social media links and maybe your email if you want it there, where people can reach out to you so people can inquire about this language of the gods, because it is an interesting way of thinking. It's the second part of the equation that many people are not aware of. They look at, okay, well, I know the first part. I have to do the first part. They might procrastinate on the first part. They do the first part, it doesn't work. And they realize like, okay, this doesn't work, and they stop. But they're missing something vital. And I think what we spoke about today is going to be diving into that second part where they have to pay attention to. And it goes into the mindset that you have. You can make the difference in your life, but you do have to have action. If you don't download the book, you can't expect, oh, wait, why didn't things not work out? I listened to the podcast. Sometimes the podcast is only the starting point. It could be step one. And then step two is you taking action. I want to thank you, Jeff, for coming on, sharing some of your time with me, wisdom, knowledge, all of those wonderful things that you have said is going to be a blessing for many people.
Thank you, Michael. Great to meet you, by the way.
All right. I would like to thank my guest, Jeff Buehner, for coming on Coaching in Session. As you can see, he's filled with the passion of the language of the gods. And he has wrote the 7 Secrets of the Language of the Gods. I will have that link below for people to check it out. But before that, I want to break down some of the episode. We are given this sense of who we are supposed to be. In the episode, he called it role. In the sense of childhood development, it's called identity. Once we create that identity, it solidifies when we are just about teenagers. So now we are giving ourselves, okay, this is who I am. That's why when teenagers go off and they do their own thing, it's very emotional for them. They are emotional beings. Hormones are raging. Their identity is there. Their ego is there. That's why kids think, oh, I know what I'm going to do. I don't need a parent. I don't need an adult to tell me what to do. I know. You don't know my life. That's why they say it. Because they don't want us to question their life. They don't want to pay attention to all the holes they created. They don't want to do the maintenance on the roads that were not constructed properly. They just want whatever they have for that time being. For many parents who are not educators, or they have this will or this identity they want to give their kid, that's a ideal that they can hold on to. But how your child moves is how they're going to move. How they perceive things is how they're going to perceive things, because perception is going to be up to the individual. And we can't tell people what to perceive. If they see someone punching someone in the face, they might say, well, that person probably deserved it. Or we can say, look at that poor person getting assaulted by that man or that woman. We don't necessarily know the whole truth, but our perception immediately to the situation is our response. And sometimes when we give ourselves that idea of who we are or what we see, we can also find ourselves with our back against the wall. We give ourselves limits when we do that, because we say this is that, and guess what happens? Those are the limits that we say we go up to, and then we don't change. Society said this, so I have to do this because what society says I have to do. It's very interesting in how we speak, how we live. And it goes into the idea of learning your life. You're going to have good moments in your life. You're going to have bad moments in your life. You're going to have moments where you feel scared or you feel brave or confident. There's going to be moments when you felt confident and someone shattered that confidence. There's going to be moments when you were fearful and someone made you feel confident. What you should be looking for is the contrast between the two. In between the lines is going to be the answer for your life and for your mindset. You have to understand what you say, who you are, might be a facade. It's a very good possibility. Typically, we want to be loved, we want to be cherished, we want to be appreciated. But what are you willing to give up? Are you okay with being alone? Most people aren't. Most people want to be in a room full of people and feel so alone versus being in a room with no one, being totally compelled to be happy and enjoy that solitude. I think it was Robin Williams said is, you don't know true loneliness until you're in a room full of people and you feel so alone. I remember when I was younger, I'd always daydream. When it came to school, I didn't want to be there. Even though I had good friends and went to a good school, I spent most of my time daydreaming. Maybe because we had a tough upbringing, but it was still a good upbringing where I was able to have my video games and be happy and things like that. I don't necessarily look at my life as a bad life or that I would wish upon my enemies as mine. It made me who I am. Sometimes I think about the negative things that happened when I was younger, and it doesn't necessarily make me feel like, oh my God, I had such a rough life. It's, wow, that was an interesting time in my life. Because I learned when I was younger, this is not what I want for myself when I'm older. I want to make adjustments. And I did make adjustments. We can adjust. We're not a rock, right? We can move if we want to. We're not a tree. We can move if we want to. But our mind sometimes keeps us grounded. This is who we are. This is our role. I'm a man. I'm a woman. I have to do this. I have to do that. This is my identity. I have to be this. These are my values. These are my beliefs. The pandemic showed perfectly how people hold on to this belief that if you can control your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions, you can go so far in your life. There's going to be a lot of people who are going to try to knock you down. There's going to be a lot of naysayers. There's going to be a lot of people who look at you wrong. But if you're not afraid to be alone, if you're not afraid to go off and be daring, then you can do amazing things in your life. You have to figure out, what do you want for yourself? And I think some of the methods and the steps that Jeff shared with us are going to be great starting points for many people. But then you have to ask yourself, how do you change your subconscious mind? It's not as easy as saying, I'm going to change it, and you change it. Because if you look at New Year's resolutions, I bring up this example all the time because it's the perfect example of conscious mind and subconscious mind. I'm going to get in the best shape of my life. I'm going to learn a language. I'm going to go travel the world. 3 months later, you didn't do any of it. Subconscious mind realizes, okay, Jeff brought up a great point about affirmations. Affirmations work, but if you don't have a strong subconscious mind that is going to believe it, guess what's going to happen to those affirmations? Down the drain. Because you don't believe it. I'm going to be a millionaire. I'm going to be a millionaire. I'm going to be a millionaire. It's nice, right? It's a nice idea. It's a nice fantasy. Think about all the stuff you can buy. But in reality, you don't believe it truly. If you truly don't believe it, then you truly won't have it either. If you do have it, you will lose it. Because that's your mindset. The scarcity type of mindset, the limiting belief type of mindset is what we aim at Reven Concepts to turn around to destroy. And for many people, they're just falling deeper into those limiting beliefs, deeper into that negative mindset, deeper into who society says they need to be. They're careening off a cliff to their destruction. And I'm trying to say don't do it, but they still do it. How can I help people who don't want to help themselves? How can I help people who are blind, who think they can see? In reality, my goal, my idea for who I am and how I'm helping is that I understand I can't save everyone because not everyone wants to save themselves. I've seen it firsthand where you're helping someone, you're trying to help someone, you're trying to do good, and you just see them crumble. You just see them unravel. And you don't see them unravel of all the bad things. You see them unravel of all the things that you taught them, all the beliefs, all the systems. So they become exactly who they didn't want to be because they were afraid to become who they were supposed to be. Fear is often one of the leading factors for the destruction of our dreams and for the life that we can have. If you can identify those fears and if you can start to change your mindset to look at things in a different light, then you're going to start to make proper changes in your life. And I think just diving into the language of the gods is going to offer you a different perspective where you can say, you know what? I like this, or I'm going to take this, or I'm going to take that from it. Because in reality, what we are thinking for ourselves, that feeling is true. And though things might happen unconsciously, or you might think like, oh, that's a coincidence where you were thinking about something and something happens a couple months later. Oh, wow. This person contacted me. Oh, I got a new job. Oh, I got this or I got that. It's because you willed it. Your subconscious mind believed it. That feeling of, okay, I have a new job. I'm happy. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. Versus, this is my life. This is my circumstance. I can't change it. You can change wherever you are in your life. You can change whatever type of mindset you have, whether it be negative, whether it be pessimistic, whether it be possessive. I mean, you can change your mindset into whatever you want. I often tell people to change it toward the positive and to the better. But if you want to have a different type of mindset, I can't force you to change who you are. You choose who you want to become. And oftentimes people choose the easy road. They choose a road where it doesn't require a lot of change. Because easy is easy and hard is something that many people don't want. So I challenge you. What do you need in order to change your mindset? What do you need in order to change your life? It might be this language of the gods. It might be getting a mindset coach. It might be being honest with yourself. Whatever your starting point is, don't be afraid to take that first step, because the end result is going to be a better life, the life that you dream of. And your dreams can become a reality. You just have to want it. My name is Michael Reardon. I'm a mindset coach. If you have any questions, you can email me coachinginsession@gmail.com, and I will see everyone on the next episode of Coaching in Session. Until then, everyone, take care.